Hey, thanks for joining me. I found issue 3 of Ballistic about 2-ish months ago. I had issues 1 and 2, and I've been holding on to them for a long time because I was hoping that I could run across my issue 3. And I just said, hell with it. Let's just show the ones I got. And but now I found issue 3, and for some reason I had it in my head that this was a 4-issue thing, but it's certainly not. It's only a 3-issue thing. And the reason that we're here, it's not because of the mind-blowing story, nor is it because this is the most interesting character. This was Michael Turner in the making, superstar artist, getting his kind of first works put together, and before he gets put on Witchblade and becomes a superstar. I do remember picking this book up, and I don't know that I had noticed who a Michael Turner was previous to these books, but I certainly saw something in there in his design sense, his way to make dramatic looking art. He's obviously known for drawing the hot girls, as you can see with these giant, man, those are the biggest hits ever. You know, he's got an interesting way of doing figures, long, skinny, gangly things that some people don't like, but it's just a stylistic thing that he does. J. Scott Campbell has his own way of drawing girls. So does Adam Hughes. So does anybody who's famous for that. He's got a way of doing it. But his design sense with, like, I don't know what these flowy, ripped up, cloaky looking things are supposed to be. I don't know how this has much relevance to the comic, but I don't care because it's really neat looking. You know, Turner had a style that just stood out in front of everybody's eyes. He wasn't a Silvestri clone. Like when he first started, once you kind of go back and see some of the comics that he was helping to draw, you know, there's issues of Cyberforce where it says pencil assist Michael Turner. And if you kind of are familiar with his artwork, and you're also very familiar with like Mark Silvestri's work, you know, they don't say in those books, Silvestri did pages 1 through 5 and pages 7 through 10, and then Michael Turner did pages 6 and whatever, you know, they don't say. But if you're familiar with the artist's work and you start looking at it, you can start picking it apart and going, I'm pretty sure this is a Michael Turner page. And Michael Turner was doing kind of a Mark Silvestri top cow kind of house style thing for a long time, but he very quickly developed his own look, and this Ballistic series is where I think that he really developed it. And I'm fairly certain he went from Ballistic to Witchblade. And you can just see kind of the stylistic growth that he did. And if you are familiar with Witchblade, there's a lot of familiar things that are in this book in terms of art style that just were like, yeah, this guy's perfect for Witchblade. Not too concerned about the story. I said that last time on the first 2 books. The Wetworks crew has shown up. I was saying that Michael Turner kind of gave the second coolest looking versions of Wetworks next to Will Spertasio's version. He really, you know, made it look good. But yeah, Michael Turner on pencils. Inks is D-Tron. That is a pairing that worked on this book and into Witchblade that just made his work look fantastic. I thought that that was the best kind of inking style to match Michael Turner's work that could be possible. But then once Michael Turner went off to do Fathom, he had Joseph Weems inking him on Fathom, and it just took it to this whole other level. So both are good, but they both have a slightly different vibe to them. But you know, you can kind of tell that this look that was developing, like obviously Silvestri recognized the talent, and off to the races Michael Turner went. The last book, you know, it's Ballistic, and the character from Cyberforce, you know, I always refer to as Girl Cable because, you know, she's a warrior with a robotic eye and a scar and a robotic arm. Well, that's Cable. So she's getting involved in some kind of like these creatures, these vampires and werewolves or whatever, which kind of implies, or, you know, it gives a reason why the Wetworks crew is here, because that's what they were fighting in their book. The last issue 2 ended with her, Ballistic, looking at this jar with some girl's head floating in it. I don't know who she is. Don't really care. Not really concerned about a lot of the story points. I'm just mostly interested in the art. So Ballistic's there. The Wetworks crew, gotta flip it over. And once again, we're getting into the Michael Turner, you know, body types. Now, this is not the best version of what he could do, but again, this is early Michael Turner. Her head is kind of weird. Michael Turner always seems to like to draw often where the jawline, you know, the chin comes back and the jawline goes like to the back of her skull. And that's not what the human skull looks like, because the human skull would be coming back here, but the jawline basically ends not quite, but almost at the midpoint on the skull, and that's where your ear goes. But he draws the jawline all the way to the back, so it looks kind of weird. The way that her head is kind of positioned on her neck, these giant wide shoulders and upper body, and this microscopic waist. You know, Michael Turner, you know, he's trying to give her a big, strong, warrior, muscular physique, which I get, but it's also kind of a weird anatomy thing. But you can't help but can't help but notice the big visual impact that you're getting here. It works, and he refines his style to where the quirky kind of weirdness that's here in this drawing is not there for long. He grows out of it pretty quickly. I remember looking at this page going, what the fuck is like side panels this way and these guys are this way? But they're describing that this place that they're in has got kind of like there's not really a way that's up. You know, they're walking on walls and sideways to each other. They're saying this place is weird. So at least there's a reason why it's oddball and strange. That's kind of an awesome shot of the characters packing all their gear and stuff. But the characters, the Wetworks crew, are, you know, digging through the computers, talking about the Cyberforce characters. Some of these are recognizable. Some of them are kind of not. I guess this is Killjoy, but pre-cybernetic implants. And then this is character. This is the mother character, the girl that was in the original Cyberforce miniseries, like the blue-skinned girl with mental abilities that kind of had like a Jack Kirby New Gods kind of vibe. And then she ended up killed, I guess, at the end of the miniseries and never saw her again. I guess it's supposed to be showing earlier versions of them. I'm already getting way too more into this, you know, trying to explain what we're looking at than is necessary. But yeah, you know, the characters are digging into some mysteries. There's the bad guys that are monsters. They're like, again, they were werewolves or bat monsters or whatever they were. These are okay pages, but a little bit boring. Oh shit. All right. Well, take that back. Again, look at the awesomeness of the Wetworks guys here. Michael Turner, I assume he gets a script, says double page spread, show whoever and whoever, whatever these characters' names are, getting their guns out and, you know, deploying the technology, and make the most badass, awesome guns you could possibly imagine. And look at that. Protasio, he has an interesting way of drawing guns and technology. He adds all the details, and it looks awesome. This is very different. This is kind of a organic kind of look rather than a more technological look, if that makes any sense. The gear has kind of got flowing kind of curves and lines to it. It's just kind of a who cares observation, but what a great shot. I like how there's even like little missiles mounted onto the bottom of it. You know, Turner, I don't know anything about the man personally, but I have to imagine there's a part of him that's like, I have an opportunity to wow people. People are looking, people are paying attention. I'm at Top Cow, I'm drawing for Image Comics. This is a relatively high profile book. I don't know if he knew he got the gig for Witchblade at this point, probably. But, you know, it's like when the moment comes, it's time to show everybody, and you're prepared, you're ready. You know, what is the phrase? Luck is just preparation combined with determination. So you got to be determined to go after what you want, but you have to be prepared for your moment. And this is kind of an example of a moment, like, I'm going to wow people with this double page spread. And the same thing goes with every page, on every issue. Just show the best that you can do. Get people to like you. They buy your book. You make the money, and you have a career making art. And man, did he capitalize on it. If fucking the universe takes Michael Turner away from us a couple years later from cancer, it just pisses me off. Anyway, great shot. Evil monster faces here. It's pretty awesome. And then, the thing that Michael Turner's really good at, hot girls and crazy poses. She's tumbling and flipping, big expressive hands. I was watching an interview recently, an older interview with Mark Silvestri, talking about that. He was saying how in theater they tell you to be expressive with your hands because you can portray a lot of ideas and emotion through your hands while acting. And it's the same thing with your comic book characters in art. You can portray a lot of ideas through gestures, and hands are a big part of it. So big expressive hands like that, even though they're just both kind of like just hands open, it's something that's kind of interesting. And of course, we're going to take the opportunity to draw, a sexy pose, small waist and curves on the booty. Like, these are comic books and these are 90s books. Like, it's all about monsters and guns and fighting and hot girls. And you know what? That's what we're here for. So she's a badass. And then we get into some designy stuff. I did not read this issue again, and I'm just like, I don't know what's going on. There's some kind of, this is issue 3. This is the wrap up to the whole thing. So Ballistic as a character is probably, getting kind of the motivation and the resolution to whatever question she has about her life and existence and why she's here. Who cares? Michael Turner, once again, is taking every opportunity to do something dramatic and interesting. This full 11 by 17 page here, if this is a double page spread, this giant face and the body and these giant boobs of hers these are big drawings. And I just love the ink lines on this. If you're any kind of an artist and you pay attention to inking, the lines are thrown. It's thin, it gets to a thick line, back down to a thin line, and then a thin to thick again. D-Tron does this on Michael Turner's work, and this was something that I had noticed when his art was coming out, specifically on Witchblade. I was noticing the inking lines that D-Tron would put down over Michael Turner's artwork, and it just was one of those times when inking jumped out at me as a aspiring artist. I was just like, man, the way that he does these lines, and it also, to me, it looks like Michael Turner's artwork would be fun to ink if you know how to throw big, awesome, lively ink lines. That's just a guess on my part. I don't know, but I would think so. I think Michael Turner's artwork was probably fun to do. But again, you get the opportunity to draw some dramatic, designy stuff with these kind of backgrounds and the stained glass windows and the hot girls and whatever. It looks pretty dang fantastic. And it just keeps going. I mean, do you see what I'm saying? When you get the opportunity, I wonder if the artist, or rather the writer, said, okay, this is what each page needs to have, or it's just like splash page of Ballistic and whatever winged girl doing whatever. Make it look as awesome as you want. And he does. And there's some things with the figures that are a little goofy. There's some inking in this that's actually not, it looks kind of rough, but when you kind of back away and just look at the design of it, 2 girls, giant flowing, like these are like angel bird wings. They don't look like bird wings or feathers at all, but the way they flow together, it's pretty dang neat. Like, it gets your attention and the coloring works. Same thing over here. I don't think that there's a certain design element that I don't think works, but you can see that he's trying. This eye and all the hair is supposed to be connected to this mouth. So there's supposed to be a nose in here somewhere. So it's a big close-up of her face. But I don't think it works at all because, and again, his composition kind of choices to have all these things thrown together as she's kind of having revelations about her life and her past and whatever. You get a close-up shot of her face, then a close-up on her eye, and then Stryker, who there's been some kind of hint that maybe there's some kind of romantic thing, and who the fuck ever this guy is. And then I guess it's supposed to be flashing back to her father beating the shit out of her sister. But just having this mouth floating in the void, it doesn't look like it's connected because you don't see any other part of the face or the jawline. If you saw the nose and all the hair was moved out of the way, again, I'm not trying to say that I, as an enthusiastic amateur artist, could do better or know better, but just looking at it, I see what Turner's going for. I don't think it works, but you can see the ideas forming and the kind of designy, interesting stuff he's really going for. Like, he's really throwing down the interesting art. Like this page here, that one there, the spread there. You know, this is kind of okay, but the big shot with the guns, like, he's going for it. This is what's capturing people's attention. It's really interesting, even if it looks weird. Again, weird floating mouth and then floating eye. It doesn't work, in my opinion, but you can see the ideas that will kind of grow. So then she's back somewhere, conversations back where there's some kind of, it's boring. Maybe you spent a lot of time on those other pages, so you got to start doing some small panels and some silhouettes to like, I spent a bunch of time on those other pages, I got to get caught up. So you throw in some simple pages, simple backgrounds, and you can kind of burn through these relatively quickly as compared to the other stuff. And then we always got to get to some other dynamic, interesting shit. Good Lord, look at that. This one is looking awesome. I mean, lean into the sex appeal. Why not? I mean, it's practically orgasmic here. I mean, look at that face of hers. She's hurting for a squirting, and she's getting it. And the gentle touch of her own arm on her body there. Now, there is some kind of anatomical weirdness where I'm trying to track, like, okay, here's head, shoulder. So where's her other shoulder? It's down over here somewhere. So I feel like the anatomy doesn't track where the arm would come down and then come back up from the elbow up. It kind of like if the shoulder was here, it kind of looks like it would stretch to fit correctly. But then I'm also like, the way that the cloak is covering her body, because, you know, they don't have enough balls to have naked titties in this book, so they got to have something that covers it. So not being able to see her other breast in the drawing here, I'm like, it's probably indicated over here slightly. I feel like we should see her other shoulder and we should see her other boob over here. It kind of gets lost. I would imagine he would probably agree, were he still alive, and to look at his older work and be like, I know what he was going for. You know, giant shot, she's sexy looking, it's awesome. You got the bird wings, the flexing of the body, the lower torso looks good. The parts that capture your eye, in my opinion, are her face and this long, awesome arm, and again, that really expressive hand. The coloring is amazing. I love the coloring on this. As I look at it closer and try to follow, like, the way that the arm and elbow kind of connect, it all looks kind of weird. It's almost would be better if, like, this sheet were just covering all of this, and then this is all you see. I don't know, but I think that looks pretty damn impressive, all things considered. Again, Michael Turner trying to just wow us with his artwork. He's taken the opportunity. He's got a moment. It's just like that Eminem song, you know. You got to choose your moment. You got to be ready to go. And he was. And this shit just makes people look and go, God damn, look at that. And he just got better as he went. So that's awesome. And again, whatever kind of magical moment she's having, whatever kind of super revelation of her abilities. See, Witchblade #1, they already got an ad for it. So obviously he went straight from this to that, because how could they have an ad for it coming out when this book had just been released? Okay, all right, now we got to flip it over. This is a little bit less interesting just because it's just a giant, pointy, muscular monster thing. It looks good. Like, there's no denying it, but I don't know. I'm just less interested in it because it's just like a nondescript nobody monster. I don't care about it, but it's good. So whatever she's doing with her angelic powers now, her wings, I like this shot. The wings coming up, that's a really dramatic shot of the wings coming up. The way her arms are going forward. Again, expressive hands. See the way those fingers are kind of like spread really far apart. Expressive hands as she blasts him, looks like right in the head. And she pulls something out of him. Yeah, she can see inside him. There's some kind of little device, and she blasts him and pulls it out of his head. I don't know what's going on. Pretty good silhouette. Look, they got almost close to showing some titties, like naked boobies down there. That shot right down there, her face, kind of the anatomy of her shoulders, her body, her rockin' hot boobs, and her hand there. That's a good shot. It looks good. So again, pushing the boundaries of sexuality just a little bit. Just a little bit, but again, kids are reading this, so you can't have too much. But, you know, young men like titties, so, and old men like me like titties. So whatever, she wraps it up. The Wetworks guys are like, hey, by the way, you're awesome. By the way, did you notice we have a giant gun? Look how cool we are. And I can't help but look at this and go, this is just like early Witchblade. Because the facial structure, I mean, if there's a downside, I have to say, a lot of artists do this, and it's not easy to get out of. It's like you tend to have like one female face that you draw. Early Michael Turner had one female face he could draw. If you just make her hair brown and make it longer and lose the scar and the robotic eye, and then have this girl looking at a metal arm, this is just Witchblade. Hot girl with a thing on her arm, you know, it's just right there. It's just right within his wheelhouse of shit that he does. But I'm not saying this is a negative. It looks good, but you can see why he'd be going straight from here to Witchblade. And, you know, they're trying to make Ballistic interesting. She's not. She's really not, but they were trying. And I guess that's the end. It doesn't say the end because I'm flipping through. I'm like, all right, well, where's the rest? Well, I guess it's over. So, you know, I'm just repeating myself, but Michael Turner had the skills, and he was growing page by page, book by book, and it just makes me happy to know that this guy got noticed, got hired on. Silvestri brings him in, has him do some, I think he did background assist in some books, does some pinups, draws a couple of extra pages. He gets kind of some reps in, and then however it goes down, he gets to draw a 3-issue miniseries of Ballistic, a hot girl, and you're going to guest star the Wetworks crew. Hell yeah. And he just takes that opportunity to show what he can do. And then Witchblade, for whatever reason, I don't know if it had much momentum because Witchblade only showed up originally in this Psyblade She crossover that Silvestri did. That was the first appearance of Witchblade, and the look and the characterization was not exactly the same as what the character ended up being in the book for real. But they're going to do Witchblade. You know, maybe they're getting ready to, you know, they know that the bad girl trend is going to be taken off, and so what are we going to do? Let's throw our, who's our up-and-coming superstar? It's Michael Turner. They put him on Witchblade, and that book just took off. You know, despite what people may want to say about it these days, it was hyper popular, it sold great, and everyone was into it. And I liked it a lot too. It was one of my favorite books. I collected Witchblade forever because it went into the 80s or 90s, and I think I collected it for the entire time. It's kind of like me and Spawn. I just collected it forever, but I got more enjoyment out of Witchblade than I ever did Spawn. Anyway, who cares about the story? We're here for Michael Turner's art, and it's just pretty damn fantastic. Every time I look at his work, I just get pissed off that he died and we don't get to have decades of work from him. Because, again, I've said that Michael Turner always seemed like one of those guys that, like, loves comics and wants to make them and would probably be doing it to this day. Unlike, like, Joe Mad, who wants to go make video games and shit. He's good at comics. He likes comics, of course, but his heart's not in it. His heart is in video games. He's off doing that. But I feel like Michael Turner was a comic book guy. He wants to tell stories. He doesn't want to just draw covers, and he doesn't want to, you know, use comics as a stepping stone to something else. I got the feeling that he wanted to make comics, and I feel like that's what he'd still be doing. I don't know the man, but that's the feeling that I get. Who knows? Anyway, Ballistic #3, Michael Turner's work, fantastic, and it's always a joy to look at his stuff. So that's all I've got on this one. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.